Well, come to England. Speaking English is not a necessity. Integrating into our culture, don't bother. Getting a job, no need. British people will pay for you to sit at home and do nothing. Commit a crime and don't panic. You won't be deported. Activist lawyers will be paid for you to try and keep you here at our expense. We're now shelving out £1 billion a month in benefits to households headed by foreign nationals. That's £12 billion a year. Twice what it was just 3 years ago. And while they're hoovering up handouts, 1.26 million migrants are now on universal credit with, guess this, over 700,000 of them not working. Well, you think that's bad enough, wouldn't you? Just those numbers there alone. And then we add in the illegal migrant hotel bill. We're spending £41,000 per migrant per year on hotel accommodation. That's nearly £4.7 billion a year. Plus £1 million a week on legal aid, paid for by the same British taxpayers who are now skipping meals, missing rent, or stuck on NHS waiting lists. And it doesn't stop there, of course, does it? It never does. Close to 1 million people in England can't speak English properly. And 140,000 can't speak a word of it. In England. Not Paris, not Islamabad, England. The government has built a benefit system where speaking English is optional. Work is optional. But claiming taxpayer cash, that's always available, isn't it? A safety net. It's a magnet for this country. We're told immigration enriches Britain. Well, does it really? Because what I'm seeing is a welfare state stretched to breaking point. School systems completely overloaded with translators, housing lists clogged, and taxpayers, you, the hard-working people at home, signing up for a bill that you never wanted. Now, government ministers are patting themselves on the back for backing a raising of the English requirement to B2 level, basically A-level standard. Well, forgive me if I don't believe this will solve the problem. Just last night, I listed a litany of ridiculous job titles that are available to skilled migrants abroad. But I want to be clear. This isn't about race. It's not about hate. It's about respecting the British taxpayer, the people who built this country and continue to build it and to fund it. And frankly, you guys at home, everyone in this country who works hard and pays taxes, deserve some standards. If you come to Britain, you should and must speak English. You must get a job, contribute and integrate into our way of life. Why is that so much to ask? Why is that such a big deal? And if you don't, why should the hard-working taxpayers and citizens of this country be expected to fork out for a free house for you, hire you a free lawyer, and at the end of it all, provide you with a cushy taxpayer-funded lifestyle? This is a country, not a refugee camp, nor a holiday park for the world's useless people. It seems to me we now have very limited options, and the only one that is going to start working is by deporting people like every other sane-minded country around the world.
Have you had a random call lately from a strange number, maybe trying to sell you something or even scam you? If so, your info could be out there. That's because of data brokers, shady companies that scrape the internet for your personal details and sell them to marketers or even scammers. These days, scammers can even use AI to mimic your friends' voices and trick you into sending money. It's not just annoying. Data brokers often target vulnerable people with high-interest loans or sketchy offers. But there is a solution. Incogni, the sponsor of this video. Incogni contacts data brokers on your behalf and requests your info be deleted from their databases. And because your data can keep popping up, Incogni keeps sending removal requests to make sure it stays gone. They've just launched a new unlimited plan with custom removals. If you find your info on a weird website, just send them the link and their privacy team will work to get it taken down. Getting started is easy. Hit the link in the description, create your account and let Incogni handle the rest. It's risk-free for 30 days and you'll get 60% off an annual plan with the code GBNews. Take back control of your data with Incogni.
And as ever, I want to hear what you have to say at home, gbnews.com/your say, or tweet me at Alex H. Armstrong. Well, I'm now joined by the Research Director at the Centre for Migration Control, Rob Bates, as well as my panel, former editor of The Sun, Kelvin McKenzie, and author and journalist, Michael Crick. Rob, thank you very much for coming on. This number today is quite shocking. We are told there is a black hole and that it's more than likely taxes are going to be raised on taxpayers across this country. When is enough going to be enough?
Well, I think that's what a lot of people at home will be asking themselves. When you see figures such as 12 billion a year being spent on foreign nationals, you see that over 1 million people that have come to this country nominally to improve our economy, to improve the standards of life of Brits in this country, are actually now claiming universal credit. And that's before we even get into those other types of benefits, such as housing support and PIP. I think really people need to start asking themselves at home, and the government really needs to have a bit of soul searching. Who is the mass migration experiment that we've been embarking on for 30 years actually serving? Because it certainly isn't the British taxpayer. This is something that has been inflicted upon us. No one has ever voted for this, and we are now seeing many individuals coming to this country simply without the intent to work. 14% of those individuals that have come to the country in the last couple of years have actually come on work visas. Many have come as dependents or on family visas. And you have to ask yourself, is this really building the economy of the future? Is this really the kind of future that we are going to be heading towards? And I think a lot of people at home, the majority of the country, would say no to that.
And on top of that, of course, as well, we've seen that, skilled migrant workforce, the sponsored visas, should I say, are just spiralling out of control. 400,000 plus just last year. Government was celebrating halving it. Are we just celebrating more absolute nonsense? And just to go on to your point about the British public not voting for it, not only did they not vote for it, they voted against it. They voted in the Conservative Party time and time again to lower these numbers on that manifesto, and that hasn't happened, has it?
No, and let's not forget that right now 50% of the country want net migration to either be running at zero or at net negative. So this is where the actual mood of the country is. Politicians are so far captured by those quangos such as the Migration Advisory Committee, so far captured by those business lobbying groups that are constantly saying, well, if we don't have this visa opened up for us, we'll see an absolute cacophony of crisis, that they're almost sort of frozen, stupefied by the fear of taking a wrong step. And I think that's really the wrong position to be taken towards. We've got over 9 million people economically inactive in this country. We need to be focusing much more on investing in those skills for those individuals, getting those individuals into work. And you mentioned the work visa routes, some of those professions that are able to come in. Of course, we've got equality and diversity officers is one of the most ridiculous, but we've also got kebab shop owners, we've got cooks, we've got professions that, frankly, we are not in need of. These are not skills that we can't train our own people to do.
Right. Yeah, just an interesting stat, by the way. There's one particular halal butchers, I think, that had 918 visas sponsored over the course of 2 years, which is an incredible number, really. Michael, I'd like to come to you on this. Surely there's a point now where we say enough is enough. This is costing the country an epic proportion amount of their tax money. We're staring down the barrel of more tax increases later in the autumn. Labour should be looking at perhaps deporting people and saying, actually, you know what, if you can't afford to live here, you should go home.
I have to say that your rant this evening was probably the most xenophobic speech in the history of British broadcasting.
What did you not like about it, Michael?
It was just nasty.
What was nasty? They're all
You're
facts.
basically saying
They're all
we
facts.
hate foreigners. We hate migrants.
No, I didn't. I literally said we don't. This is not about hate. I literally said in my statement, this is not about hate. This is not about race.
It was vile. Anybody listening to that who took it serious, I mean, it was. It made Nick Griffin and the BNP look like moderates.
Absolutely ludicrous, ridiculous statement. Why don't you just look at the facts, Michael? You're so out of touch.
Give me a fact.
I've just listed a litany. Were you not listening?
Well, let's take the 1.3 million facts, right?
Yes, take one of them.
3/4 of them are people who are here under the Brexit settlement.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
And you're proposing to deport them, are you?
Any sane country around the world, if you go to America, for example, and you run out of money or you can't work, you are deported. What's wrong with that?
Well, for a start, when people are on universal credit, many of the people on universal credit are working here.
Well, I'm not saying for everyone. I'm saying for the people who can't work. 700,000 people, Michael. 700,000 people. The taxpayer is
you're ranting again.
Well, that's a fact. What do you not like about it?
But 700,000 people...
Yes, out of work, migrants.
Well, when people, some of them may be people who have come here as refugees. While they're here as refugees, as you know, they can't work. They're not allowed to work. So there will be a gap between them being accepted here and getting proper immigration status and working. Some of them may be... not everybody in this country works, they may belong to families where there is somebody else working. There may be all sorts of reasons why they're not working, or they may not be able to find a job. Right?
What happens in every other country around the world when that happens?
But there are hundreds
You go
of
home.
thousands of people who have come here as migrants or are here under settled status as part of our Brexit agreement, in just the same way that there are British people working in Europe under the same agreement and living there. And are you saying?
What about the other half? What about the other half then, Michael? Should they all stay as well?
The other half of what?
Well, the other half of that number, you said some of them might not. They're not all going to be Brexit settlement, are they?
What are you going to do? Sort of round these people up with machine guns, put them into the backs of vans?
Machine guns? It's against the law to stay past. Anyway, look, we need to move on. We're not going to get anywhere.
What's against the law?
If you were to round people up with machine guns, it's against the law.
Who are you going to deport under your scheme then?
Well, I would deport people who no longer can afford to live in this country. I think that's rather sensible. It's exactly what happens in America.
Well, that would be half the population, wouldn't it? There are lots of people in this country who can no longer afford to work.
People who have migrated to Britain, who can't afford to live here anymore, should go back to where they came from. I think that's completely reasonable.
No, not necessarily. When people come to this country, all sorts of migrants have come to this country for decades, centuries, and no doubt many of them were living in poverty to start with.
Okay.
The Huguenots, the Jews, the West Indians, the people who came and worked in the health service, they would have started off, many of them in unemployed or in low-paid jobs, and gradually worked their way up. Whereas under your regime, your xenophobic regime, you'd say, right, well, you can't afford to work here, you're having to claim universal credit, out.
Yes, I do believe that. Kelvin, what do you make of the shocking numbers today?
They are shocking numbers, and they are the accumulation, really, of 15, 20 years, nearly 25, 26 years of politicians from every party, and some of them still exist today, who will not address the fundamental issue that we do not need anybody else in our country. We cannot cope with those that we have here. They are a burden to us. They are a financial burden to us. And this is where the real problem is. We aren't a country that can afford to have this kind of large...
What about those businesses that can't find the labour that depend on migrant labour?
Well, those people who've come here... We've got to wrap it up. We've got to wrap it up, unfortunately.
But they can't find the labour because the white population don't want the jobs.
Those businesses are going to have to go to the wall. We can't carry on being blackmailed into taking in people who actually, a lot of whom, don't seem to be able to go to the work that they were coming here for in the first place.
OK, thank you, gentlemen. We will discuss this, I'm sure, ever more.